Alright, really quick, I'm going to show you what I did to test this thing. It's simple. It's not the first time I tried to record this. The first time you could really hear that noise I was talking about earlier. So here's the new armature. Real simple. Just plug it. Plug it back in. Turn the key on. Turn the all-wheel drive on. And now you can hear it. You pull the armature off, you don't hear it it's not as loud. When you put it on there, it's pretty distinct. And how this works is, you can pull it off fairly easy, but what the magnet does, again, it's almost like a clutch disc, where if you had your pressure plate, it would be out here, and this is your flywheel, and this would get sandwiched in there. Well, it's not getting sandwiched. The magnet doesn't allow it to rotate in here. Creates just enough friction, or holds it enough where it kind of locks that cage up, forces the rollers out in that sprag, and that's what jams the ring gear inner hub, or the ring gear, I guess, altogether, to the axle hubs. I'm going to try to set that up in an exploded view and explain it a little better, but you can't spin this on here. I mean, if I tried to, I'd probably cut my fingers. You just can't turn it. You shut it off, and just this is how it is normally. And then when you hit the all-wheel drive, that locks it. Now the old armature had deep grooves in it, so that's what made me really start to look at this. And luckily, I checked it before I sent it out and spent the money, which I guess is a no-brainer. Probably to most people would have done that anyway. I was just so convinced that was the problem when I first took it apart. I paid for the service before I even dismantled it. I just was convinced that the way these wires looked, that was pulled out of there, and really that's just, just the sheathing pulled up, and it's cut here. I'm gonna have to just put some heat shrink tube around it. But so what happened was, with that thing locked up, just the rotational force of the wheels, even with the all-wheel drive on, it was locking the magnet, but it was forcing it to spin, and that's what really wore the grooves in that armature plate. And they're pretty deep. I imagine eventually it just wore right through and it would have broke. And I would guess this is the one item in there that's supposed to wear. But anyway, long story short, that's what that is. Also, this is this pin right here. There's a little copper, looks like copper. Kind of looks like a C-clip, and that's just a thrust bushing for the ring gear. So I'm gonna call it a night. It's getting late here. I have work in the morning, my real job, and so I'll come back and hopefully tomorrow finish it up. I was hoping to get it done tonight. It's supposed to be really nice here tomorrow, almost 70 degrees. I know everybody's gonna be out in the woods riding around, but I'm gonna get this done for my daughter so she can come out too. So I'll see you tomorrow. It's Joe again. Got all the parts to fix the differential on that Polaris 330 Magnum I've been working on. It was a seal kit from All Balls. I mentioned that before. I ordered that before I had the differential apart and realized it was basically destroyed. I tried to send it back to Amazon. They refunded my money and just said I didn't have to send it back. I never had that happen before, I guess because it's only $13. I've always had good luck with All Balls stuff. The roller kit is from Caltrick. I've never used their stuff before. I've avoided it just based on advice, but I'm trying to save a couple bucks on this thing, so I'll just call them discount quad parts. The roller cage, that's also Caltrick. It feels pretty stout. All the clips are there. These H clips are H springs. It was inexpensive. The bearing kit. The bearing kit came from East Lake Axle. I probably could have ordered everything from East Lake, but the kit that they had listed on Amazon didn't look compatible with mine because of this much larger bearing. This bearing goes in place of that red colored bushing that's inside the housing that the ring gear rides on. And on the 400s and 500s they have this bearing. On the 330s, 325s, I don't remember all of them, they don't have the bearing, they have that bushing. So this is of no use to me, but they just give you all of them in the kit. All the bearings are made in China. I opened them in the package, checked it out. But I bought this kit because it was the most complete. It came with both O-rings for the housing, pinion seal, the 2-axle seals. I'll probably use the all balls ones, and who knows, maybe they're the same thing. But the other thing from Quad Logic, I got the armature plate. It's essentially the clutch disc of that differential. I'm going to kind of lay the parts out here and explain how this thing works a little bit better than I did before. It's pretty neat how it operates. So I have everything here. Somewhere there's a Torrington bearing that came in the kit, or I ordered it separate. I don't even remember. It might have been in it was either in this box or one of the other ones. Oh, here it is. So I got the Torrington bearing too. You could actually buy this. I thought I was going to have a hard time getting it. I couldn't buy it from Polaris. It came as part of a kit, no different than the seals. You can get the O-ring seals from Polaris, but they come as part of the kit. Maybe that bearing's part of it. I don't remember exactly, but it was just a lot less expensive to do it this way. If this was a 500 HO or even a 400, water-cooled motor, they're a lot more powerful. Maybe I wouldn't do this, but I'm just trying to save a couple bucks. It's a 330, and again, it doesn't spend a lot of time in all-wheel drive. Really, the only time you need it is if you're backing up on a little bit of loose ground or in the snow or something. Other than that, it gets good traction and goes. So that's how we're going to fix this up. I have to finish cleaning up the parts in the washer. It turned out I do not need to have my electro-magnet repaired. I did a little test on that once I got it cleaned up. The wires are cut, but it's just the sheathing on the wire. They weren't pulled out like they appeared to be. So I was able to cancel that. They refunded my money immediately. I wouldn't hesitate to use that company again. They were great. And if I needed that work done, that's where it was going. But it turns out I don't need that. And what made me check that magnet out a little more closely was just the absolute horrible condition this rear was in. Basically what I figured out was, remember earlier in the video, I had touched the inside of the rollers. They felt good, and that's because that's where the axle hubs ride inside the cage on the rollers. So that part of the hub is actually kind of polished up. All the rust on them kind of correlates with these with the springs. So I think what happened was the outside was horribly corroded. I took a little bit of effort with the needle nose pliers and a little banging on it to get this out, the old part out. And I think it was just frozen inside the ring gear where this rides, inside that big hub, part of the ring gear anyway. And it just wouldn't allow it to engage. It basically just jams. But I'll explain that. I'm going to lay the parts out and kind of show how it works. And again, it's pretty neat. So I've got everything here. I got a little more cleaning up on those parts. I'm going to show you how I tested that electro-magnet. It's pretty simple actually. You just plug it back into the quad, give it power, and you could hear it. You could faintly hear it just by ear, but when you play it back on the video, it's quite loud. So it left no question in my mind that it works. Plus, I dropped the old plate on there, the old armature plate, and it locks it on. I mean, it works and it works well. So it's just a matter of cleaning everything up. I have some emery cloth. I ordered it, and it's not here yet, so maybe I won't be able to put this together today. I'm thinking about it. I'm just going to polish the corrosion off of those axle hubs. They're just way too expensive to replace. I couldn't find used ones. And I'm just going to clean up the inside of the hub on the ring gear. That didn't seem to be as much rust, more just buildup of just debris and gunk. But I'm sure when it's all cleaned up, the hubs for sure, and that they'll be a little bit pitted. But I'm confident it'll still work, and we'll see how long it lasts. And if I'm making a mistake, like I said, I'll buy Polaris parts the next time and put the money into it and fix it right, or try to find a used differential out there that I know is better. It's tough to say, but I'm going to put the carriage before the horse. Maybe this stuff will all work out, and and I'll be golden. So I'm gonna get some parts cleaned up here, and then we'll start laying it out and putting it back together. It's a simple job, just a matter of finding the parts and cleaning everything up. It really took more time than taking it apart and probably putting it back together. So I'll be back. Alright, I'm going to press these bearings off. I learned a little lesson about this parts washer. I left the parts soaking in there since I started this. Let me grab it real quick. The aluminum cover goes over the pinion. Reacted with something in that parts washer. I just have a purple power in there, which I guess is water based. It makes sense, but I really had to polish it up to get some of the build up, almost like calcium in here. It came off easy enough. I just have to get my Dremel with a little wire and clean that up in there. It's not horrible. It's kind of funny. I was laughing about the Caltric parts being from China. This thing's stamped made in Korea. Here's one of the bearings I pressed off. Factory Polaris. Never been touched otherwise that I know of. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's made in China too. They're the parts that came out of it, so I don't know. I guess what I'm putting in there is at least as good as what was there. These things I probably could have just put my driver on there and whacked them with the mallet and they would have came out. They come out pretty easy. That was also incorrect. The rust wasn't from those H-clips. The H-clips are stainless. They actually look like they're brand new on the Polaris cage. So I guess it's just rusted from the rollers and the hubs and all the water that was in it. I think there was more water than oil. So let's check this one out too. This one's too rusty to read it, but no, I could see it right there. It's also made in China. So again, I guess the parts I bought are at least as good as the ones that were in there. But you can see the corrosion on there. I was able to polish some of it off the other hub. I have it soaking again. It's definitely going to leave it pitted, but I think I can get it smooth enough that it'll operate. And where that Torrington bearing rides, kind of the same issue. Again, I'll just polish it up with some, clean it off with some emery and polish it as best I could. I think it's in the picture there. So I'm going to continue on cleaning this. Don't leave your aluminum parts in a parts washer. At least for whatever reason this one had an issue. The rest of it also sat in there and it seems fine, but this was soaked and it was with all this other different metal. So it almost had like those stalactites or whatever you call them that hang down sticking off of it. So I think it probably was a reaction with whatever chemicals in that purple power and the other metals that it was soaking with. But again, it all cleaned off of there, so I'm not too concerned about it. Alright, real quick, I was going to use this all balls kit only for the seals because I felt they might be better than the ones that came with the East Lake kit. And I was incorrect. They have the same manufacturer markings on there. They say, I don't know if you could see that, TTD or TTO, TC. It's the same. That's the East Lake one. That's the all balls. They have a different part number. They're the same diameter in and out, except the East Lake one, the one that came with the East Lake kit, it's a little thicker. So I think I'm actually going to use this one because the all balls ones more closely match what was in there. At least I think they do. I threw them out. Guess I should have kept them. I could dig them out of the garbage, but I'm not going to. Well, I'm going to use whatever seal because the difference in the thickness moves the sealing surface, the lip, away from the worn part on the inner axle hubs, which I actually polished out pretty good. I mean, I could barely feel it, so I think it'd be alright anyway, but if use one over the other moves that, then that's what I'm going to use. And the pinion seal, that's got the same markings as the other ones, but the All Balls kit's got this one, East Lake has this one, and they're both, again, same diameter. Everything looks good other than the obvious appearance, and this one's thicker again, so I'll have to look into that a little more. So I guess I'm just going to mix and match and use whatever makes this work a little bit better. But let me get these bearings pressed on, and I'm going to kind of set it up and try to do an explanation of how this works.